It was a Friday afternoon when I pulled into my driveway after a long week of work. All I wanted was a quiet evening, maybe a glass of whiskey on the porch, and a couple of hours to myself. But the sight that greeted me killed that thought instantly. There, in my garage, was a shiny white SUV with a vanity plate that screamed entitlement. The garage door was wide open, and my tools, mower, and supplies had been shoved around like they were nothing. I knew that SUV. I knew those ridiculous pink bumper stickers. It belonged to Karen, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, the same woman who had spent the last year making my life hell with bogus fines, surprise inspections, and endless gossip. I killed the engine and sat in stunned silence for a moment. She wasn't just on my property, she was in my garage, my space, my boundary. I stepped out of my truck and called out, "Karen, what the hell are you doing?" She appeared from around the side of the house, holding her phone like it was some kind of royal scepter. "Oh, hi. Don't get so bent out of shape. My driveway is being resealed and I needed somewhere to park. Yours was convenient." "Convenient?" My voice sharpened. "This is my garage. You can't just shove my stuff around and move in like it's yours." Karen gave a dismissive wave like I was being unreasonable. "Oh, don't be dramatic. It's only for a couple of days. Besides, the HOA bylaws allow for reasonable accommodations in cases of maintenance." I stared at her. "The HOA doesn't own my garage, I do, and you didn't ask." Her lips twisted into a smug smile. "If I asked, you'd say no, so I helped myself. Don't worry, your little tools and junk are fine." That did it. I felt my jaw tighten, my pulse thumping in my ears. She had crossed lines before, but this was trespassing. This was arrogance on another level. I walked past her into the garage, inspecting the mess. My workbench had been shoved against the wall. Boxes of supplies were stacked haphazardly. My mower had a new scratch on the side. She had even unplugged my chest freezer to plug in a phone charger. The ice inside was already melting. I turned back to her, but she was already strutting away, muttering about important HOA matters she needed to handle. That was when the idea hit me. It was sharp, it was simple, and it was poetic. I walked back into the garage, grabbed the remote, and hit the button. The garage door rumbled down, sealing her SUV inside. Then I pulled out the key to the side door, twisted the lock, and pocketed it. For the first time that day, I smiled. If Karen wanted to use my garage without permission, then she could keep it for as long as I decided. That evening, I fixed myself a drink and sat on the porch as the sun dipped low. My phone buzzed with a text. It was Karen. "You locked the garage. I need my car." I typed back, "Oh, I thought you said you'd be fine for a couple of days. Don't worry, it's safe in there." No reply. The next morning, I went about. My chores as usual, feeding the cattle, fixing a loose fence post, hauling hay. Every so often, I glanced at my phone. More texts piled up. "Open the garage. This isn't funny. I have errands to run. You can't do this. It's illegal. I'm calling the HOA board." I ignored them all. By noon, she tried calling. I let it ring. By evening, she had left 3 voicemails, each angrier than the last. In one, she threatened to tow her own car out of my garage, as if that made sense. In another, she screamed about fines and legal action. I sat back in my recliner, sipping my drink, and let her words wash over me like background noise. For once, I was in control. For once, she was the one squirming. Day 2 rolled around, and Karen escalated. She came stomping up to my front door, pounding on it like a debt collector. "Open this door right now," she shrieked. "You are committing theft." I opened the door just enough to lean against the frame. "No, Karen. Theft would be taking someone's property without asking. Kinda like what you did." Her face flushed red, her fists clenched. "I'll call the police." "Go ahead," I said smoothly. "And when they ask why your car is in my garage without permission, what do you think they'll say?" She faltered, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. Finally, she huffed, spun on her heel, and stormed back toward her house. That night, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Mark, one of the quieter neighbors. Heard Karen screaming, "About you holding her car hostage. What's going on?" I told him the whole story from the moment I pulled in the driveway to the last knock on my door. By the time I finished, he was laughing so hard he could barely breathe. "She had it coming," he said between chuckles. "Half this street will thank you for it." I slept better that night than I had in months. But Karen wasn't done. By day 3, Karen was unraveling. She stormed up to my front porch again, this time with a clipboard in one hand and a fistful of HOA violation slips in the other. "You're going to regret this," she spat, tossing the papers onto my welcome mat. "Illegal storage, misuse of property, endangering community safety. I'm fining you for all of it." I raised an eyebrow, sipping my coffee. "Fining me for using my own garage? That's creative, I'll give you that." Her face turned crimson. "It's not your garage while my car is in it. That vehicle is my property, and you are unlawfully detaining it." I chuckled. Funny. Last time I checked, the law calls it trespassing when someone puts their car in another person's garage without permission. You might want to read up on that. She stomped her foot like a toddler. "This is harassment. I've already called the HOA board. They're backing me up." "Good," I said smoothly. "Maybe they'll finally understand what it feels like to be on the other side of your power trips." She let out a frustrated scream and stormed off. Moments later, my phone buzzed again. Mark, the neighbor, had texted, "She's losing it. Half the street is watching her melt down. Keep it up." That evening, as the sun dipped low, I saw movement at the end of my driveway. Karen had dragged a folding chair onto the sidewalk in front of my house, phone in hand, glaring at the garage door like a hawk. She sat there for hours, waiting for me to slip up, maybe waiting for me to cave and open it. I didn't. I cooked dinner, played some music, and let her stew. By day 4, Karen made her boldest move yet. Around mid-morning, a police cruiser rolled up my driveway. My stomach tightened, but I reminded myself I hadn't done anything wrong. 2 officers stepped out, one younger, one older, with a graying mustache. Karen came running out of her chair, waving her arms. "Officers, thank God you're here. He's stolen my car. He's keeping it locked in his garage against my will." The older cop turned to me. "Sir, is there a vehicle in your garage that belongs to this woman?" "Yes, officer," I said calmly. "Her SUV. She put it there without asking. She trespassed into my garage while I wasn't home and moved my property around to make space for her car. When I came back, I closed my garage door. Now she claims—" "I stole it," Karen screeched. "He's lying. He can't prove it." The younger officer spoke up. "Ma'am, did you have permission to park your car in his garage?" Karen hesitated, then snapped, "I didn't need permission. The HOA bylaws allow for reasonable accommodations." The older cop pinched the bridge of his nose, clearly tired of the nonsense. "Ma'am, HOA bylaws don't override private property rights. If you parked your car in his garage without consent, that's trespassing. He has the right to lock his own property." Her jaw dropped. "So you're just going to let him keep it?" The officer shook his head. "No. Here's what's going to happen. You'll politely ask him to open the garage so you can move your car, and he'll decide when that happens. But you're not filing criminal charges against him. If you keep causing disturbances, you'll be the one in trouble." Karen looked like she was about to explode. She spun toward me, her eyes shooting daggers. "This isn't over." The cops left, clearly amused, and Karen stomped back to her house. I, however, wasn't done teaching her a lesson. She wanted her car back? She'd get it. Just not today. That night, I sat on the porch again. The neighbors were out, chatting more openly than usual. A few of them shot me thumbs up or grins as they walked past. Karen had made herself the neighborhood tyrant for years, and now, finally, someone had turned the tables. By day 5, the tension was at its peak. Karen's SUV sat silent behind the garage door, while Karen herself was unraveling in public. She paced the sidewalk, muttering into her phone, gesturing wildly, even snapping at neighbors who dared to laugh at her plight. I finally walked out, jingling my keys. "All right, Karen, 5 days. I think that's long enough. Want your car back? She froze, eyes narrowing. Yes, now. And I'll be reporting you to the HOA for every minute of this abuse. I shrugged, pressed the button, and the garage door rumbled open. The sunlight spilled across her precious SUV, dustier than when she'd left it, but otherwise untouched. She bolted forward, fumbling with her keys, and jumped inside like a soldier rescuing a comrade. As she backed out, she shot me a glare that could have curdled milk. "You'll pay for this," she hissed, before speeding off down the street. I waved cheerfully. "Drive safe." The neighbors across the street broke into applause, their laughter ringing out. Mark came over, clapping. Me on the shoulder. That was beautiful, legendary. She'll never live this down. And he was right. Word travels fast in a neighborhood, but when it comes to Karen, it travels at lightning speed. By the weekend, everybody knew about the garage hostage situation. People whispered about it at the mailboxes, laughed about it on their porches, even shared memes in the neighborhood group chat. Someone had taken a photo of Karen screaming outside my garage with the caption, "Breaking news, local HOA dictator defeated by garage door." Karen, of course, doubled down. She printed out flyers claiming I was a danger to the community, stuffing them in every mailbox. "Unstable," she wrote in bold, "hostile, mentally unfit to own property." It might have worked, except by then everyone had seen her tantrums firsthand. Most of the neighbors were sick of her harassment, and watching me stand up to her gave them courage. Instead of siding with her, they started swapping their own Karen horror stories. Fines for wind chimes, threats over garden gnomes, demands to cut down trees that had been there for decades. Mark organized a small gathering at his backyard fire pit, and to my surprise, nearly the whole block showed up. The mood was light, the drinks were flowing, and everyone wanted to hear the play-by-play of how I locked Karen's SUV in my garage for 5 full days. By the time I finished retelling it, the whole group was in tears from laughing. "She's done for," one neighbor said, wiping their eyes. "She's lost whatever little authority she thought she had." Another chimed in, "You should have charged her storage fees, maybe $50 a day." The laughter roared again. But the best part came the following week when the HOA board called an emergency meeting. Word was, Karen had tried to rally them into pressing charges against me, or at least issuing a massive fine. Instead, half the board had resigned, saying they were tired of being dragged into her personal vendettas. The remaining members voted to strip her of her president title. When the news broke, Karen went silent. No more flyers, no more angry knocks at my door, no more smug patrols through the neighborhood. She avoided eye contact whenever she drove past, and for the first time in years, the street felt peaceful. I didn't need revenge beyond that. Watching her empire crumble was more satisfying than anything else I could have planned. One evening, I sat on my porch with Mark, sipping a cold beer while the sun dipped low over the rooftops. Kids played in the yards, neighbors chatted freely, and the air carried the kind of calm that had been missing since Karen moved in. "You know," Mark said with a grin, "you're kind of a legend now. The guy who finally stood up to her. People are going to tell this story for years." I laughed, shaking my head. "I didn't set out to be a hero. I just wanted my garage back." "Sometimes that's all it takes," he said. As the crickets began their nightly chorus and the stars blinked awake above us, I leaned back in my chair and thought about the irony. Karen had wanted control, power, and fear. Instead, she'd given the neighborhood laughter, unity, and freedom. Her SUV might have been trapped in my garage for 5 days, but the truth was, she had trapped herself in her own arrogance for years. And now finally, the lock was broken. So here's the lesson. Never underestimate the power of a simple boundary. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is as easy as hitting the garage door button and walking away. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more wild stories of justice served the neighborly way. Until next time, remember, never park where you don't belong.